Namastê, Dany.
Namastê.
Estou aqui com o Dany Pardise na esquina do Yoga Flow, falando sobre yoga. So Dany, I was looking at your website last night. It was really great, and it really struck me the title. Freedom, evolution, and Ashtanga yoga. I'm really interested in the evolution in yoga. Can you talk about your evolution idea?
Well, I think yoga is about evolution. Evolution meaning expanded consciousness, expanded focus. And as people take care of themselves in very deep levels prescribed by the practices and traditions of yoga, then awareness extends, because you clarify your body and you clarify your mind. As you heal your body, then you create more opportunities. If you're deteriorating or struggling with deterioration or illness, then evolution becomes theoretical. But if you are really healing yourself and strengthening yourself and using the ideas and practices of yoga to clarify the mind, strengthen, then evolution becomes a practical instead of theoretical practice. I think also in evolution, everybody adds their own ideas to the practice, to the understanding of evolution. Everybody talks about yoga in their own way and describes yoga in their own way. Everybody adds their own information to the piece of the puzzle that is yoga. And in recent history, yoga's gone through this giant evolutionary leap. Perhaps Krishnamacharya was one of the great evolutionary teachers of yoga by bringing together all these different practices and teachings and creating different ways of practicing, much deeper practices, the idea of building heat, and purifying the body of toxins through heat, elimination of toxins through the creation of heat. Also his the creation of sequential practices that people could learn and practice on their own. And also the way he taught people to develop their own practice, the way he helped people develop their own practice. So he created many lineages of the practice, and I think to understand really the full teaching, you have to understand all the teachers that he created that are renowned, like Pattabhi Jois and his son Desikachar and Iyengar and Indra Devi. So that was a giant evolutionary leap in the study and practices of yoga. And then as it came into the Western world, I think people have helped it evolve. Great teachers have taken the practices and added their own ideas to the practices, and I think that's continuing today in all the different forms of yoga that have been created. I don't think all of them are brilliant, but certainly some of them are. And when you have great teachers adding their own intelligence and wisdom to the traditions of yoga, they're nurturing an evolutionary science and the understanding of truth, that we're eternal, unlimited, and free. So that's a little bit about how I understand these practices.
That's great. You started studying yoga in 1976.
That's right.
How did you meet your teacher?
I was living on the island of Maui in Hawaii. I was playing music for a living and just exploring the Hawaiian Islands. And one of my friends, my dear friend, her name was Jeannie Miller, we were going out and she had cancer of the uterus, and she was studying yoga with a friend named Cliff Barber who was studying on his own through the traditions of Swami Satchidananda, integral Hatha yoga. And so I saw her do yoga and it looked interesting, but I didn't try it. And then sometime a few months later, she told me that her teacher Cliff had told her that 2 young yogis had shown up on the island and they were going to give a demonstration and start teaching. So I went to the demonstration, and it was David Williams and Nancy Gilgoff, who were the first Western teachers who were adept at the practices of Ashtanga yoga. And they gave this fantastic demonstration outside in this old historical park in Lahaina, Maui, and nobody had ever seen the levels and the depths of the practices that they were able to do. And the next day they started teaching outside in a beautiful park by the ocean. And so I just went and tried it, and I was impressed right away by the depth of the practice and how powerful it was. Even in the first few movements that I did, I broke out into a sweat within the first salutation that I did. So within a minute I was sweating, and I was in pretty good shape, but I realized this was much more profound and much deeper than anything I'd ever experienced before. And they were very good teachers. They taught us very slowly and carefully. First day we just did 10 minutes. There was about 35 people that came to the class, and then we came back the next day and they added a little bit more onto the routine. And every day they'd add 2 or 3 minutes of practice onto the routine that they were teaching us, which was the introduction of the primary series of Ashtanga Yoga. So I studied with them for several months, and then I knew the primary series, and they insisted that if we were going to study with them, that we at least had to come every day for a month, 6 days a week. Otherwise they weren't going to teach. So at the end of the first month, everybody was very deeply into the primary series, and we're experiencing tremendous benefits and increases in strength and flexibility, and I noticed my immune system was immediately boosted. And after a few months, myself and everybody else were completely disciplined in the practice. So that was the beginning of my exploration of Ashtanga Yoga.
And you had other influences, right? Martial arts and different, that you incorporate that today in your classes, in your practice?
Well, I studied martial arts when I was a teenager. And also I swam a lot and I taught swimming. So I think yoga was a natural progression, especially from the martial arts, and also the symmetrical activity of swimming. So it kind of led me quickly into the practices, because I had experience in a slightly similar kind of exploration. And then later I studied Tai Chi and Kung Fu, and I incorporated some of those movements in and some of the ideas of those practices when I teach, because they certainly cross each other. They're complementary to each other.
And how's your style of teaching today? What do you like to pass on to your students?
I work within the structure of Ashtanga Yoga, but I also show people that it's not a fixed practice. I don't feel anything is fixed about it. I think it's a fantastic evolutionary exploration, and it's a brilliant exploration, but every pose, in my opinion, represents dozens or hundreds of other positions. So for me, it's easy to demonstrate how one position has many variations and many
kramas.
Yeah, and so I lead people as I practice, and I've been led to practice myself into an expanded exploration of Ashtanga Yoga. And also I relate yoga to shamanism philosophically, and shortly my website will probably say Shamanism, Evolution, Total Freedom, and Ashtanga Yoga. To me, yoga is shamanism. It's rooted in the shamanic traditions that are linked to indigenous cultures all over the world who are exploring ascetic practices and how to expand consciousness and awareness and connect with the spirit through meditation or any number of different traditions, magical plant traditions, or dancing, or drumming, or fasting, or vision quest. They're all related to the science and practices of yoga. And they all, at some point, they were probably all aware of each other throughout the world. And then gradually they separated into different lineages, but they're certainly all connected. They're all exploring the nature of what God is, which I consider to be nature. Nature is God. God is nature. All those explorations, all those shamanic studies are trying to make that connection with nature, understand the sacred nature of existence.